I think the volunteers are important.
Absolutely, that's part of our criteria for the Hall of Fame. With the Southern Football League. We concentrate very much. In fact, we put one of the guys from Happy Valley into the Hall of Fame last year, Turner. Steve Turner. We put him in last year because of his work over 25 years with Happy Valley. He'd be out there picking up empty bottles and that when the lights are turned out.
Yeah, he's a good man, he's a legend.
Oh, and that's the backbone of the Southern Football League, is people like that work to help to put people on the ground. We're very, very much into that on the Hall of Fame for the Southern League. It's part of our criteria. We have elite players, don't get me wrong, but we unlike the AFL's Hall of Fame and the SNFL Hall of Fame, local footy wouldn't exist without volunteers. Just wouldn't happen.
Oh, he's been with the club for years. He's one of their major sponsors.
Really?
I did have the book, but I didn't keep it.
Yeah, well, do you know Steve got Hall of Fame status this year from the league?
Really?
He wouldn't tell you.
And what did you get that for?
Well, he's been there about 45 years.
He's one of the top sponsors. I got. I mean, sponsors go from here down to here. There's heaps and heaps of them. I don't know where they get them all from, but yeah.
They have got a lot of sponsors, in fact. Someone's doing a good job of...
Yeah, whoever the sponsor guy is, yeah.
Who is it who looks after the sponsors?
It was Ross at the beginning. He looked after the sponsors at that time, and them is Steve.
What's his tucker like?
Good, yeah, I don't mind it. I like Chinese, so there's, I don't have...
You know, you're un-Australian if you don't like Chinese food.
True too.
It's not just the social infrastructure, it's also businesses moving in, as you saw, you know, the businesses moving in, the Chinese restaurant, 20 years sponsorship. But it's because of that expansion of the area that brought the businesses in, that contributed also to sponsorship and to support these clubs as well, which is really important. So it's not just about the expansion of community infrastructure of schools and stuff feeding in, but the expansion of businesses and retail and whatever in the area as well have influences also on our sporting clubs, and that's just as important. Today, it's such a big business to keep these clubs going.
Well, it's so expensive to keep these
clubs going. Absolutely. And so the importance of fundraising and again, that goes back to volunteers, to running those events and manning the canteens and everything else, which is...
It's about volunteers, it's about sponsors, it's about council.
Yeah, absolutely, to keep these clubs going, absolutely. It doesn't pick up all the in-kind support, which sometimes is forgotten. You look at today's value, they've put a value of $20 for a volunteer per hour is the thing. If you take the number of volunteer hours, which doesn't get recognised in the bookkeeping, the value of that is so significant.
Of course, it was a different council that you were dealing with back then, wasn't it?
It was Meadows Council. Yeah, Meadows Council. They really didn't care too much about Happy Valley at the time. So it took a lot of pressure from Gordon and Wal Baxter, and I was involved, and Wayne Baxter, to go to every meeting and just try and get something for them. They wouldn't do anything because they didn't know what the total development of the ground was going to be, with all the sports into like tennis and all that sort of stuff involved. So they were reluctant to make a commitment to us to build. We wanted to build a proper club room. I'm being a builder, and I was going to take on the role of building it, and we were going to finance it. In fact, when we did actually get the tin shed from the council, it still took a lot of money to finish it. And three of us had to go guarantors on our places to actually get the money to finish it. Well, with Wal Baxter, I think Neville Holm and myself went to guarantors. And it wasn't for a lot of money, but it was a lot of money back in those days. I mean, $10,000 you could buy a house back in those days.
Right.
So that was the sort of money we had to guarantee. And within a year or so, Wal had paid that money back, and he was a tyrant. He was terrific.
Wally kept the Happy Valley Sports Park facility, the building, the club. He kept that alive. I mean, I know that Gordon and others, but Gordon was really the backbone to the external and the structure and the building. But in terms of the operation, if it wasn't for Wally, that would have folded years earlier. I mean, he was a cantankerous bugger too. I mean, he had a particular way of seeing things, and didn't like external intrusion into the affairs of running the facility. And society was changing. And so regulations in terms of health, for argument's sake, in how to run a facility, trading hours, all those sorts of things, the transparency of bookkeeping, they weren't things that Wally necessarily saw as being important. What Wally saw as being important was having people in there putting their money over the till, which effectively then supported the footy club primarily, and that was good for, as Wally saw it, for everyone.
Which it was.
And that was him. That was him. And it was really people like the Wally Baxters that were the backbone for many, many years in the transition to what we have today. But there are Wally Baxters in all sorts of clubs, all sorts of organisations.
Thank goodness.
Absolutely. That really just have the purpose of that organisation at heart. Don't necessarily do it always the right way, but the heart's in the right place.
Well, fantastic. A lot of councillors out there too. Thanks very much.
Now, I just